Good morning, this is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the pre-market webinar for the morning of Tuesday, the 20th of January. My disclaimer, this is for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing and learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to issue trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers at chartingthemarkets.substack.com. It's published on YouTube after a delay of 24 hours. All right, great. Just wanted to comment on something today. Yesterday, I was saying that I've been commenting that I've had some odd things happening on my futures database. This is a very, very good example. Yesterday, there was a 60-minute buy signal here. And this morning, that's basically moved over to this little section here, and there's no buy signal. And there was a buy signal on NQ, there was a buy signal on RTY, there was a buy signal on YM, and they have all vanished this morning. And you can see the divergences. They're here. So it's, I don't know, maybe they've messed around with the way they're calculating the RSI, but whatever it is, it's annoying. If this keeps happening, I'm going to be looking over.
You're not showing any charts, just your logo on the main screen. You're going too low.
Well, in that case, let's fix that immediately. Yeah, sorry. All right. Okay. So this is really annoying. You can see the RSI that I was looking at yesterday, but instead of being down here, it's up here. So this is very annoying. So this has been happening, and you can see some wreckage of old signals which no longer exist on the charts. So if this keeps happening, I think they're making some upgrades. Generally speaking, I think they're doing an okay job at that, but this is annoying. And if it keeps happening, I'm probably going to switch my main futures platform. But I'm persevering for the moment, but it is annoying. Okay, so yes, we do not have a buy signal. We don't have one on NQ. We don't have one on RTY. We don't have one on YM. We did have one on DAX, and that has failed. And we've got another one on ESTX, which hasn't quite failed, but might be doing so. In terms of topping patterns here, we haven't really got anything. We've got a big, i.e. this would be the double top support. We've got a big potential double top on ES, but in smaller, there's not really an awful lot to look at. NQ, there's nothing to look at. RTY, possible overall topping action. YM, we've got a nice looking large double top and pretty nice looking smaller double top. I was talking about this yesterday. This is now broken down with a target in the 4880 area, which you can see is a potential head and shoulder neckline. So I'm liking that. I'm liking that target. DAX, we've got a rising megaphone from the November low, and we've got one on ESTX, and both of those are starting to break down. So this is an interesting setup that we've seen overnight, because it continued down. It's not down an awful lot from where it was when I was doing the bigger picture yesterday. It's down about 35 points, but it's an interesting looking 35 points. This is more of a reaction than I was expecting, and I'm wondering if it might follow through today. Let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. All right, yes. Yes, we've got a pretty nice looking rising wedge here, which is overthrown and is starting to break down, but we are holding the daily middle band so far. SPX looks pretty much exactly the same. It's slightly further above the daily middle band at the close here, but it's very, very similar. If we start seeing breaks below the daily middle bands here, then we may well see large corrections. In terms of the a topping pattern here, we've got a large potential level top here, but we don't have anything smaller really to guide the way. The only one that we've really got much on and the nice topping setup is actually on Dia. On Qs, we never made it back to the retest of the high, and this is too big really to be a double top. So I am wondering if we do see a sizable decline here, whether we might be doing an A, B, C flag, ideally coming down into, let's say, the 570 area. So that is a possibility I'm considering, and we are breaking this rising support trend line from the November low. All right, looking at the hourly chart, not a lot to see really. I drew in a potential rising wedge here, but it never really happened. So could this be... Well, I don't have a decent resistance trend line here, and I don't think we'd probably get one until we saw a retest of the high. Looking at Dia looks a little different. We've got a nice looking double top here, which looks like it's going to break down at the open, and we've got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed on the daily chart, which is the only one we've got. So we've got, this has potential, well, this is a pretty nice looking setup, and again, we have an obvious target, having got an expanded, very, very nice looking wedge from the April low last year. We've got a pretty obvious target at the wedge support, which I've got down currently at about the 478 area. So we'll see. Hourly chart, we had an early RSI 14 sell signal. That's made target, but you can see we've got a very obvious target down here, and I'm wondering if we might be heading down towards that. All right, looking at IWM. On the daily chart, we've got no current divergence. I've got a potential wedge here, and I'm watching this. This could be an overthrow of this wedge, but I've drawn in a couple of potential options to the upside in the event that that isn't the case. In terms of the shorter term, do we have an overall? Yes, this is an overall target. This is an overall larger rising wedge for the April pattern. I don't have enough in to draw that trend line here, but I'm kind of assuming that would be the case. Shorter term, though, we had a very nice looking rising wedge from the November low. We've gone through that to a large extent, large enough that I'm really looking at an alternative trend line here. That's not the only option, but it would be the obvious option. So we'd need to go up a little higher to get that. On the hourly chart, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed now and an RSI 5 sell signal fixed. RSI 5 is probably going to make target at the open this morning. RSI 14 probably won't. And we'll need some more downside. So we do have a little level top here. It's small. Really is pretty small. But that would be the obvious target for that to make break down and make, and that is in the what would that be? All right, that would be. It really is pretty small. So I've got that target in about the 262 area. So it's not really anything to write home about, but it is a small pattern, and that may well make the target today. DAX, I was saying the situation in terms of signals would be improved if we saw a retracement and then a break up. The retracement is now too deep. And we're getting back towards the daily middle band. So we're not going to get a sell signal there on the RSI 5. We could still get one on the RSI 14. On Nikkei, might be too deep too, but we're not going to know until tomorrow. As it is, this doesn't look like an overall double top because it went up too far after it retested 52.6k. Okay, let's have a look at the really interesting ones today, which are dollar and bonds. Okay, dollar. I was talking yesterday about the possibility and the sell signal, and the buy signal on the USD daily, the sell signal on the USD daily, and I was talking about the possibility that we might see a reversal here that could potentially take us back into these lows, and we are seeing that. We've now broken down from this double top. That's got a target in the 97.53 to 97.61 area, and we'll see how that does, but that would get us pretty close if made to a retest of this low. Now, partially the reason the dollar is moving is because of all this Greenland rubbish. So it's not, personally, I don't think Trump is crazy enough to actually invade Greenland, but it's a possibility, and certainly, at the very least, he's putting a huge amount of pressure on NATO, just really trying to force the issue at the moment. I don't think there's any chance that that's actually going to work. I don't know who's advising him, but probably the same bunch of sycophants that usually advise him on everything. But I really think this is a complete loser. He's never ever going to do it. And to be honest, NATO are mainly at this point waiting to see if he's actually going to invade. If he does, well, that could be very, very, very bad for the dollar, and it could be very, very, very bad for bonds. Because I don't think this would be a shooting war. I think it would be a trade war. And one of the big vulnerabilities the US has got is it's got the US reserve currency, which is great, as long as you have a whole load of allies bolstering its use so that it remains widely used because they all support it. When you're attacking those allies and taking their stuff and pissing them off and breaking treaties and alliances, then at that stage, that calculation becomes a little different. They stop supporting it. In which case, well, got to say gold has been going up enough that could actually start being a credible reserve currency instead. And there are other options. So I think that could be very, very bad for the dollar indeed. And also, one weapon they can very much use is to sell bonds. They are in, I think, actually, I've had a look at this, and they actually own about the Europeans, including the Brits and the Canadians probably own about $3 trillion worth. That's a tidy sum. I mean, when they were talking about Trump caving in April, they were talking about someone selling 100 billion in bonds. 3 trillion is an awful lot more than that. It's not necessarily enough to cause a massive long-term problem, but the fact is, if they're one of the perks you get of having the reserve currency is that people buy your bonds. If that's going, then that's going to make it harder to fund American deficits in the future, and we would have to see how that develops. But I suspect it would not be particularly fun. So also own an awful lot of American equities, and that's kind of a sensitive issue at the moment, as equities are wildly overvalued by any traditional measure. So watching this with interest, but in the short term, what it's got us is this flag on ZB has broken down, it's made target at the retest of this low, and the question is whether we are going back on track with the head and shoulders that has broken down with a target in the 112.04 area. I think we probably are. ZN, we had a triangle that broke down, made the target at the retest of the low, and again we've got a double top which has broken down with the target in the 110.17 to 110.12 range, and we may well be on the target to that now too. So watching those with enormous interest. Right, CL, I said the other day we were forming a head and shoulders. I was a little doubtful about that breaking down, and as it is, this head and shoulders has broken down, but looks as though it may be rejecting. It only needs to get over here. The right shoulder high is here. It only needs to get over here for this head and shoulders to fail. So watching that with great interest, but if it does fail, then I'd be leaning towards seeing a retest of the high. 60-minute sell signals reached the possible near miss target. We've still got an open 60-minute sell signal on HO, which hasn't failed yet, but might be failing. We had an IHS which broke up. This setup's slightly different because, of course, I've rolled all these into the March contract rather than the February contract now. So the revised setup here on the March chart was an IHS looking for 2285 area, and we've now made that full target. Looking at RBOB, that's the only one with an open sell signal, but as I said, it might be failing. RBOB, 60-minute sell signal reached the possible near miss target. Possible head and shoulders forming here. This one hasn't broken down, and if it had broken down, it would probably be about to fail, but we'll see whether it gets back over the weekly pivot. NG, I was saying on Friday morning, Thursday morning as well, probably I think, that we'd formed a falling wedge here, and I was wondering about a rally. Here is that rally. Now, if we're just doing a 50 back here, then the target area I'd be looking around would be the monthly pivot at 4.058. We will see. Do we have a reversal pattern set up here? No. Does it look like we're going to develop one? No. We're just seeing a very significant spike up. Not seeing how this looks on the February chart yet. We'll be rolling into that soon. Sorry, March chart, but we haven't rolled into that yet because the volume is still with the February contract. Looking at GC is going a bit higher and may well continue to do so. We had a head and shoulders breakdown here, failed into new highs. SI, possible double top set up here, but we are continuing higher. We're now over 95, and frankly, I'm rooting for 100. 60-minute sell signals reached the possible near miss target. Palladium. Palladium's got an open target up here in the 2010 area. So I'd like to see that target made, and it looks as though it's coming around for another try. I would say something I was saying on the Bigger Picture webinar last night was that we've got a whole load of negative divergence across the metals. All of them, pretty much. I am concerned that's going to lead to a retracement soon, but I quite like to see silver do 100 first. I'd like to see palladium make this target here, and I'd like to see platinum make the target at a retest of this high here. So I'm leaning towards seeing some more upside first, but if we start doing a retracement, it would not be a complete bolt from the blue. HG, we've got a daily sell signal fixed here, and I'm liking this double top. It's nice. It's very nice. I was saying that when we retested this high, and it's still true, and we're getting pretty close to support on it. So I'm thinking this double top may break down, and if it does break down, that would have a target in approximately the 5.25 area. And I'm thinking that looks doable. So we'll see how that goes. All right, not a lot to say about the currencies today. EUR/USD bouncing strongly as the dollar falls strongly. GBP/USD double top had broken down, but I did mention that this might well fail, and I think it may well be failing. Looks like a bull flag forming on USD JPY. USD CAD, we've got a we've got an IHS which is broken up with a target in the 1.405 area. We've got a possible alternate double top, but there's a smaller one broken down with a target in the 1.3875 to 1.3777 area. So waiting to see which of those makes target. If the dollar is heading down again, then obviously that leans towards the lower target here. So we'll see how we do in the monthly pivot. Looking at Australian dollar, rejection back up into the high, probably NZ the same. All right, KC. KC, we are forming a potential little level bottom here, but although I'd be moving at this stage, I'd probably be moving this to over here. So watching to see if this is going to rally, but bigger picture, I've got a kind of a lean towards the downside. SB, bear flag fixed or broken down or continuing to form here on SB most likely. CC has continued down. This is, if you can see my face, I'd be wearing my not surprised face. Coco's got unfinished business on the downside. We've got a 6-minute buy signal fixed, wondering if that's going to fail. Looking at CT. We've still got a double bottom here, and it looks like it's going to give it a crack. This looks like a consolidation stroke bullish triangle forming at the moment. Looking at lumber, double bottom has broken up, and we've got a 6-minute sell signal fixed. Keeping an open mind, bigger picture, I'm leaning short on lumber, but it's a nice looking double bottom. It may make the target, which is in the 643.25 to 646.5 range. Looking at ZW. ZW, we've got a double bottom which broke up and then almost failed, but maybe having another try. If it can get back over and convert the monthly pivot, that could still make the double bottom target in the 546.5 to 549 area. Looking at corn, we have this big breakdown here, and this looks an awful lot like a little bear flag forming, setting up a retest of this low. Looking at ZS, possible double bottom here, and it's holding for the moment. We've not continued down. If we were to see a sustained break up over about the 1070 area, then this would have a target in about the 1105 area. So we'll see. ZL had a very strong bounce here. Looked like a bear flag forming. Turned out not to be, or the bear flag broke up. So this is retested the prior high here. 6-minute sell signal fixed, but we'll see how that goes. Live cattle. Live cattle, I redrew this in the April along with lean hogs, and this is actually quite a nice looking rising wedge on the April, and that's broken down. We've got a little double top which has broken down. So this is already, double top was already on the February chart, but this is increasing the odds of getting down to a back test of the monthly pivot here at 22708. I'm looking at lean hogs. Got a possible channel here. We need to go a little higher to get there. At the moment, nothing suggesting that this is actually going to turn around. All right, great. Let's have a quick look at questions. All right. Yeah, but the thing is, it's no price is going to be accepted either. I don't think so. I mean, also the other thing is he's offering. He was talking about offering like 100 grand to everyone, everyone in Greenland. If he offered them $1 million, then that would actually only be 50 billion, which would be a complete bargain. But I mean, when they're talking about actually buying Greenland from Denmark, then they start talking about like $750 billion or maybe $1 trillion. Which would be much more realistic. 50 billion would be a steal. But the problem is the people from Greenland don't want this to happen. Denmark doesn't want it to happen. Greenland doesn't want it to happen. And the NATO allies don't want to feel that they're Belarussia to Trump's Russia. Because this is very much the Russian mindset, and actually a lot of the MAGA guys have got a very Russian mindset, and the tech bros very much have a Russian mindset. It's so I mean they're all for this, but I think the Europeans hate it, and I think they won't do it. So I think he will back down. Obviously, he's backed down in the past on this. I think he might be getting crazier, and also this is his last year of freedom. Not because he's about to go to jail, although honestly I wouldn't rule that out. But this is last year of freedom because last year he had a relatively free hand, supine Congress, owned Supreme Court, but this year, at the end of this year, assuming there is an election, which I don't think is 100%, but assuming there is an election, after this year, he's a lame duck. after he loses the midterms, which seems exceptionally likely unless he grows a brain or hires someone competent, then he's a lame duck. This is his last year of having a free hand. He wants to make his legacy, deranged as that might seem. So he's doing what he wants at the moment. That's not going to be the case, something he can do forever. So he's going to try to get what he wants now. And that's what makes this particular moment so dangerous. I don't think he's going to invade, and I really don't think the Europeans are even going to talk about a purchase in any serious manner. I think basically if he wants to take it over, he's going to have to send troops. And I don't think that'll be a shooting war, but there would be a trade war, and that is a scenario where we could see massive stock market crashes, because let's face it, it just needs a trigger, and that would be a big one. I think we could see interest rates in the US go up to 10% with the big patterns that I've been talking about going off and making their targets. I think it would be a disaster for everyone. And I don't think it would help Trump's chances of winning elections either. So we'll see how this goes. I suspect that he will run into a hard no, and then realize that actually he can't send people to invade Denmark or Greenland, or make any serious plans to do that without the 25th Amendment being invoked. So at that point, I think he'll probably give up. However, I do think they might be imposing tariffs on a load of the NATO allies, and I think that's going to cause issues, and might bring forward a load of problems which would appear later and bring them forward too earlier. So we'll see. All right. Anyway, I'll be keeping an eye on it. I'm reading loads and loads and loads of stuff on it. I'm watching a lot of stuff too. So I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. So I don't think he's going to invade, unless he's actually finally tipped over that last half an inch into insanity. And I don't think he's insane. I think he just knows what he wants, and he's going to hold his breath till he gets it. And when he doesn't get it, I think he'll give up on it. All right. Anyway, everyone take care. Catch you guys tomorrow, and we'll see. It's going to be an interesting week. All right. Cheers.